All right, let's talk about this warm-up. How would you start it? That's one way to do it. You could subtract 2/3. Let's do the easier way. Yeah. We want to multiply through by whatever the common denominator would be, which in this case would be 15. Good. I'm going to show the work. If you want to skip this next step, that's completely fine. But this would give me 45 over 5x. Over here, the 15 would give me 30 over 3x plus 15. Then we'd simplify, so I have 9x equals 10x plus 15. You can go straight from the original to this if you can. Not a big deal. What do I do now? Good. Subtract 10x. That's negative x equals 15. So what is x going to equal? Negative 15. Wonderful. Today we're doing section 1-4. It's all about rewriting equations and formulas. So on our first example, it says there's 2 ways you could solve this problem. Your homework tells you to do both ways, but I'm okay if you only choose one method. So the 2 ways you could attack this problem. You could solve for y first and then plug the 5 in for x, or you could plug the 5 in for x and then solve for y. I think it's easiest to get rid of the x's right now, replace them with 5s, and then get the y by itself. Your homework wants you to do both ways. Pick one way. You don't need to do the same problem twice. It's just going to take up extra time this weekend. Okay? So I'm going to show you the way that I prefer to do it. If you want to see the other method as well, we can do that when we're done. So I am going to just take care of this. I'm going to turn every x into a 5. And then we basically just solve like we did yesterday. So you'd subtract 10 from both sides. We have negative 5y equals 10. We end up with y equals negative 2. We start number 2 in the same way we started number 1. We are going to replace the x this time, though, with a negative 1. Four times negative 1, of course, becomes negative 4. That becomes negative 14. And then solve like normal. So we get rid of the subtracting 14 first by adding it. We get rid of the multiplying by negative 3 by dividing. So here we are coming up with y equals negative 5. What are your questions on number 2? Number 3, same as number 2, same as number 1, just additional practice. We are going to replace the x with a 4. Solve for y. So you end up with 20. We're going to subtract that 20 from both sides. That gives us 7y equals negative 21. Y equals negative 3. What are your questions? All right, so I'm going to replace both x's this time with the negative 3. Whoop, didn't mean to go that fast, sorry. All right, we can subtract that 6 from both sides. We end up with negative 9 equals negative 3y. Divide, divide. What's y equal? 3, good. Okay, so in this word problem, they give us the formula they want us to use. C equals 5,000 plus 0.56x. They tell us what they want C to equal. Again, you could do this 2 ways. It tells you to get x by itself first, then evaluate it for C. You could really plug C in first, then get x by itself. That's actually the way I prefer. So I'm going to rewrite it. Then I'm going to solve for x. So do your subtraction. And I will need some Calculator help. Very good. X equals 6,000. Did they give us any sort of label for X? Items produced. So you could just say items. That would be fine. What are your questions? All right, here's example 6. It's a little trickier because they don't give us the equation they want us to use. We have to come up with it. So basically, you're going to a deli. You need to buy ham. Ham costs $2.49. You need to buy cheese. Cheese costs $3.79. You only have $9.50, and you know you need 2 pounds of ham. How much cheese can you buy? Is our question. So first we have to write an equation. Any ideas? Yes, ma'am.
You could do 950 equals 2 times 249.
Very good.
I was confused which one you wanted.
Yes, this is actually where H goes, but we know that H is 2, so if you want to go right to the second step and plug a 2 in, you can. Or you could write 249H and then go back and replace H with 2. Same thing, what am I going to add to that total? I heard somebody mumble it. Very good. $3.79 times what you buy in cheese. I guess everyone's solving on their own. What do you guys get after the subtraction step? I'm going to help you. What is it? Thanks. Sorry, I don't have a calculator handy. Anyone have C for me? Yeah, 1.19. If you wanted to round it to 1.2, it's not really specific how many digits. Something as small as that, I'd probably just leave it. What is this? Cheese? Pounds of cheese? Great. Any questions on this one? In these problems, you are given a formula. It's probably a formula you recognize. A lot of them are from geometry. But the important part is to recognize the variable that you are solving for. So in this case, we want to solve for R. I always underline what I'm solving for. It helps me keep everything straight. So how am I going to get the 2 and the pi and the h away from that R? Divide by all of it. So that's gone, that's gone, that's gone. R is going to equal A over 2 pi h. Pretty straightforward. All right, let's take a look at another one. Another formula we've seen from geometry. This one's about volume. That's not super important. What's super important is we are solving for W, so I'm going to underline the W. How am I going to get that guy by himself? Divide by L, divide by H. Those would cancel, those would cancel. I just have my W equals volume divided by LH. All right, our formulas are getting a little more tricky. This one, there's a couple different ways you could do it. One takes 2 or 3 steps. One just takes 1 step. If anybody sees it, they can share it with the class. Anyone see the 1-step way to solve this? Yep. Yeah, if you just multiply both sides by h, b would be it by itself. And of course, you could put the h on top with the 3 if you wanted the same thing. Any questions? The other popular method I'll show you in blue, people want to cross multiply. That would give you 4b equals 3h. Either way, it's the same thing. You get b equals 3h over 4. Either method works here. Like I said, one just takes one step, one takes two. It doesn't really matter. Questions? So if you're looking at this problem and you're confused, think back to when you first learned to solve equations. When you first learned to solve equations, you learned that you get rid of adding and subtracting first, then you get rid of multiplying and dividing. So if I want to get this t by itself, would I get rid of the adding p first or the multiplying by pr first? The adding. Undo adding and subtracting first. So you subtract p. A minus p equals prt. From here it's a little simpler. Once you do the first step, what am I going to do? Divide by PR. Wonderful. So we have t equals a minus p over PR. Any questions on this? The major difference in this last one is that fraction, so think back to what we talked about. And again, figure out how to get that h by itself. Anyone know? If I want to take care of that fraction first, what would I do? What? Yeah, if you multiply both sides by 3, that'll take care of that. So 3v equals b squared h. Again, once you get down to just multiplying, it's pretty easy. You just divide. So h equals 3v over b squared. What are your questions on this one? All right, here's your homework. It is on your green sheets. It's day 4. Again, they're all odd, so check the answers as you go. Let me know if you have any questions.